Yeah, she's got some nice long hair. And you know that
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron, and welcome in to the ultimate guide to the scouting combine. I know it can be hard to watch. I know that it can be difficult. Some of you might just want to be looking for the numbers at the end of it, but that's why you're here. I'm going to break down for you just kind of how to watch that scouting combine, things to be looking out for, and most importantly, the players. Who are the people that the Bears are going to be looking at, and who should we be looking for as you're watching the scouting combine? Now, if you're not a big fan of the combine and you just want to see the stats later on, but be my guest. But we're going to be breaking down who should the Bears be looking out for, and also there's a way to kind of be looking at the scouting combine that we're going to be breaking down. So how do you watch it? What are the things that you are looking for during the scouting combine to make it a little bit more interesting rather than just a normal track meet? But the scouting combine is here. It's already underway. There's been a lot of different conversations and interviews with different draft prospects. So really now it's going to be the actual drills, the actual stuff that is televised to us normal fans. But first, before we get into it, we're going to have to break down a little bit of news. So really the only news since the last episode was really Ryan Poles ended up having an interview. Now, during that interview, it was actually fairly interesting. I was like, okay, it's just a normal interview, but he ended up talking about a whole bunch of different things. So you might have seen some of the headlines coming across, but some of the big headlines. Number one was he talked about the offensive line, and he talked about getting more speed, slimming down from the offensive line perspective. Now, I think a lot of people, they took this, if you read it out of context, you take it as we need to just get a lot of really small people and get a lot of speedy guys in free agency. Now, that might be true. That might be something that they're looking for. But really, the question that he ended up answering in saying speed and slimming down, he was really more so talking about the current state of the offensive line and the current people. So the way that I interpreted it while listening to the entire interview was he was more so talking about Tevin Jenkins and a Larry Borum than anyone else. And he really kind of stressed that with this new athletic team as a whole. They want to get people slimmed down. They want to focus on body fat. They want to focus on just muscle composition and really that physical, just to get them in the best physical shape as possible. So really kind of an emphasis with that. But then also the next big headlines was what he had to talk about from a Justin Fields perspective, because he was talking about having a safety blanket for Justin Fields. He talked about for quarterbacks going into season 2, he wants to build the offense and he wants to build something that allows him to succeed. So he was looking at a lot of different teams out there and how have they been able to achieve success in that second year. So a lot of stuff has been buzzing around. Some people are saying Darnell Mooney. That's him saying Darnell Mooney's not a number one. Oh, we're going to be getting a big name wide receiver. It could mean so many different things. You could even say maybe we're going to trade up for Chris Olave because you see Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So it could mean a whole lot of things, but really it's good and refreshing to hear that Poles is saying, hey, we're looking to see how can we take Fields to the next level and what are some of the things that we need to build around in order to get that next level of success. I'm hoping that it means good offensive line so that he has time in the pocket, and also like what he was alluding to, having good rapport with the wide receivers, so when he's feeling pressure, he's throwing it to someone as that security blanket rather than going, crap, I'm going to have to run. I'm going to have to do something because no one else is helping me with this. So it will be interesting, but he did speak very highly of Darnell Mooney. He said when he talked to Darnell that he really just was impressive because of his quiet confidence and that he's somebody that always wants to get better. We've talked about Darnell on the show. He's one of our favorite players. And really, That's what he is. He's all about just getting better and taking it to that next level. Yes, he's not the ideal body composition. He's a smaller framed guy, but still, he's showing that he wants to be a next level receiver. Does that equal number one success? We will see. But that's about it from a news perspective. It was really just that talk from polls. Then you just kind of heard different things buzzing around about different people that the Bears have been interviewing over the scouting combine process. So we won't go through each individual, but we will bring some of them up during the scouting combine breakdown. So it's here, scouting combine on and basically what you're looking for. So some of the different days. On Thursday, it's going to be quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends. Then on Friday, we're going to be seeing the running backs and offensive line. Saturday, we're going to be watching the D linemen and linebackers. And on Sunday, we're going to be watching the defensive backs. Now, this is all on NFL Network. So if you don't have cable, figure out a way or just Google it the next day and it'll probably be out on YouTube. But I'll be watching it all, posting out different updates. So make sure to follow us on Unbearable Sports pretty much everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, you name it. We'll be breaking it all down. But before we get into who we should be watching, I want to kind of go through what to be watching for the scouting combine. Because if you're just sitting there going, this is just a track meet, what's happening, you might be clueless to how you should be actually watching the combine because they always showcase the drills. They always showcase the numbers that people are running. And quite frankly, for me, I'm not really paying attention to the drills. The drills are all fun. It's cool to see how fast they are. And actually, my wife loves watching the drills. No joke, no lie. So she'll actually watch it with me, but she cares about the drill. She actually cares about like the individual, how fast are the 40s, how fast are the three cones and stuff like that, while I'm more focused on the actual drills itself. So not what they can actually kind of time, but actually what are they truly what do they actually look like running some of these agility drills and various other things. The biggest reason why the drills are so key rather than the number stats that they try to push out there. The drills allow you to really kind of see every single player one after another after another. There's not many times that you can see the top talent go right after another and you're able to see how are they athletically. Yes, they're in shorts and a t-shirt. They're not getting smacked in the face. Yes, that's what it is. But it's nice to see how are they purely athletically. But also what's really nice too to be on the lookout for is how fluid do they look in their movements? It's a great way to judge fundamentals because if somebody's flying in the face of you and you have bad fundamentals, you're going to resort back to those bad fundamentals. So it's nice to see, are their feet right? How are they coming out of their stance? There's so much like, are they top heavy? Are they leaning forward too much, leaning back too much? What does it look like? It's there, all that stuff is stuff that you got to be watching out for in the drills. And you don't even have to look at it all that crazy. Like I said, my wife watches this with me, and I always go back to Chris Godwin was somebody who really wasn't on the radar. But as we're watching the drills, my wife just goes, I don't know who that guy is, but he looks better than everyone else that's out there. That person was Chris Godwin. You just can see when someone's playing against other people who looks more fluid, who looks comfortable out there, who looks like a comfortable wide receiver, who looks like a comfortable defensive end, whatever it might be. Just watch the drills rather than the actual events, if you will, where they're actually tracking all the different numbers. Um, but after that, though, I do want to talk about the other way. So there's kind of two key things with the combine, and that's actually after they run the drills. What you want to be looking for is actually the numbers. The numbers do actually mean something, but when you're in the moment, a lot of time, those numbers, they just get overblown. It's not Madden. It's not a video game. Just because somebody runs a better 40 time does not actually mean that they're truly faster because there is such a thing called game day speed. You always hear some people are just track athletes, so they have better get off. They're more used to these things because it is a track event. But what you are looking for is just a baseline. Because if somebody doesn't show that they have a standard baseline speed, baseline athleticism, they might not do the best in the draft. So, and in the NFL. But also after everybody is out there, I believe it's mockdraftable.com. I can actually post the link out in the description, so look down there. But I believe it's mockdraftable.com. But there is a website that will actually put together all the measurables, all the speed tests, all the bench presses, and it'll actually show you what percentile is this person in. So if they've performed really great, you can actually see that their comps of as a player. So it's really cool to just see, okay, they did really well, and here's the measurables, and here's the other comps that they have out there. But if they do bad, you can say, hey, there's not actually a lot of good comps out there. There's not a lot of success for a player that's that size. And actually, sometimes you have an outlier like Darnell Mooney. If you look at his comps aren't that favorable because he's a smaller guy, a very skinny guy, and really about that speed. But he's an outlier. So, really, when you're watching the combine, watch the drills, watch what people are doing. Outside of the stuff that they're actually tracking via stopwatch. So that stuff you can all look at later, but the drills really allow you to kind of see who separates themselves from the pack. And what's nice about this too is when you're seeing people run those drills, you're able to kind of go back and say, who are those people and what may I have missed on the tape? But also, last little bit that I want to just talk about with the numbers, one of the reasons why the numbers are actually nice, but yet again, you don't have to watch it live. The numbers at least confirm what you saw on tape. So when you're watching somebody run a 40 and you see that it's a good time, and on your notes, I'll usually look down at my notes and say, I think this person's a good athlete. And if they tested favorably, it just confirms that they are a good athlete. But what I'm also looking for too is on the bad side. If I don't think somebody's a good athlete, or maybe like an elite athlete, and they test not as favorably as expected, it can confirm that that person maybe isn't a good athlete. But also, you might go back if they do test poorly and say, are they really not that fast as I thought they were? So it's really the numbers allow you to kind of confirm or fly in the face of your assessment. So that's why it's kind of nice to be able to watch this. But really, now we're going to be breaking down who to watch for the NFL Combine from a Chicago Bears fan perspective. If you're a fan of another team, you can keep on watching, and just because you can see who are some of those key players that could be going kind of in the second and third rounds. But with that being said, I'm going to switch it over with a word from our sponsors. Have you ever wanted to start your own YouTube channel, podcast, or Twitch stream? Well, use the most trusted brand in the business, and that is Shure microphones. I use Shure in-ears and a Shure MV7 to record all of my podcasts, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. I'm able to plug it straight into my computer, so I don't have to use big mixing boards or anything crazy complex like that. So, get the brand that most professionals trust, and that is Shure. Use the description below and tell them Unbearable Sports sent you. And we are back. So we broke down how to watch the game or how to watch the combine, but really what we're focused on is who. Now that we know to really kind of watch the drills, who should be who should we be watching each individual day? So make sure you have your pen, paper ready, jot some down so that you can at least be on the lookout for certain players. Now, let's break it down day by day. So on Thursday, we have the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends coming in and running the drills. So we got to break down each position. So let's actually start out with the quarterbacks. Now, with the quarterbacks, the best way to kind of break this down is just look at any quarterback not named Willis, Corral, Pickett, Ritter, Howell, or Strong. Those are all players that are kind of going first, second, and third rounds. So, really, kind of those top level quarterbacks that they're probably going to be talking about a whole bunch. You don't really have to be watching them. Watch the other players out there just because we do need a backup quarterback. Do we draft one? Maybe not. Chances are we probably won't, but it might be nice to just have somebody on a rookie deal as that backup. So look for someone that can show some quickness and some accuracy. So if they are rolling out of the pocket or doing other drills like that, really look for that because we want somebody with really good athleticism that can keep up with the Justin Fields. Yet again, Justin Fields really isn't a scrambler. He's still a pocket guy, but it's still nice to have somebody that can at least evade like he would so that you don't have to change complete game plans with Justin Fields. But after quarterbacks, it's really going to be the wide receivers. We're going to be watching so many of these wide receivers because this is an area of need since we only have like what? Two on the roster right now, three if you include some of the like Isaiah Coulter. But this wide receiver group is very talented, and there's a lot of them that could potentially fall to us in our first, second round pick. So, one of the drills just to be on the lookout for, I'm always a big fan of the Gauntlet. That's when you have the wide receiver running straight and they have to keep turning to all the different machines and quarterbacks throwing you the ball. And what I love about it is, first off, it's just really entertaining, to be honest. It's really fun to watch and by far the best drill to watch. But really, what I'm looking for is how comfortable are you? It's not necessarily a how many drops did this person have, even though if they did start dropping a lot of passes, that is pretty bad. But really, just how comfortable do they look running this? Because it just seems too easy. A lot of the really good wide receivers look super, super comfortable in this drill, but I'm also looking to see are their hands out here, away from the body, or is it closer and they're using their body to catch? You want to make sure that they have natural hands, they're sticking their hands out because you don't want a lot of body catchers out there. It becomes difficult because you have to throw it to their chest. Think about an Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller was always someone that the ball had to go directly to him, and now he's not on the team. But let's go through just some of the people that we should be looking out for. And if you follow the draft or some of the mock drafts, this guy is the number one person to be watching out for. And that's David Bell, the wide receiver out of Purdue. This is a guy that is a favorite, I think a fan favorite because there's a lot of comps to Allen Robinson. But very similar to Allen Robinson, something that we need to be looking out for is does he have a second gear? He's not a speedy guy. He wins with contested catches, but he's not a big guy either. So he does have that Allen Robinson jump ball ability in college. So that's the big question. Does he have speed? Does he have the proper size to be able to be that jump ball guy? So to me, look for that second gear. Look to see if David Bell has that speed, that extra level, that extra quickness, because that can be like Allen Robinson. Yes, he's a bigger guy and he can do the contested catches, but what made him so good is his quickness, is his route running ability. So it's something to definitely be on the lookout for David Bell, the Purdue wide receiver. The next guy, this is just an easy person to throw out there. You'll see that I have some Ohio State people just scattered out there. We got to be looking for Ohio State. We got to be looking for Chris Olave. Garrett Wilson most likely will not even sniff the Bears' first pick. So Chris Olave is at least somebody who's been going back and forth. Now, obviously, I want to see him do well, but honestly, in the back of my mind, I kind of want to see him not do so well just so he falls to us. I hope that maybe it's like, maybe he doesn't run a perfect 40 time and it scares some people off and now he ends up dropping. Because we already know that him and Justin Fields have an incredible connection. So selfishly, I don't want him to do too well, just so we can pick him up. But Chris Olave, if you are listening, I want you to be a Bear. Hence the reason why I want you to kind of fall. Don't do too well at the combine because we don't want you going too high in the draft. But he is someone just to be on the lookout for because we love him. We want to see the connection out there. So it's definitely somebody we're going to be keeping our eyes peeled for. Now, the next group of people are people that outside of the kind of two favorites that a lot of people talk about that are kind of under the radar, I guess you could say. Number one is Johan Dotson, and he is the wide receiver out of Penn State. The Bears have talked about having playmakers, and this guy is a playmaker. He's a very speedy, very fast guy. He's going to blow the doors off on the combine. He's someone that we can get with our first, second round pick. He's looking like he could go just before it, but he could drop directly to us at that spot. So definitely want to be on the lookout for him because he's going to be entertaining. Another person, too, we have two big wide receivers to be on the lookout for. The first one is Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. He's already been in talks with the Chicago Bears at the NFL Combine, so he is definitely somebody that we need to be on the lookout for because him as that wide receiver, he's big. We want to see just athletically, is he good enough? Is he speedy enough to kind of warrant that second pick? Because he's kind of been in that second to third round range. Is he a good enough athlete rather than just a big body? Also, with North Dakota State, you'd want to see just how does he fare against other D1 competition, this next level competition. What does this small school guy look like compared to them? Like I said, one after another after another. And the last one, he might not even run fully. He's already said he's not going to run the 40 time, but Drake London out of USC by far was the best wide receiver. Why do I have him listed? Is because he could drop because of medicals. So he is someone that if he is running if he is running some of the drills, just be on the lookout for him because he's a big body, freakish athleticism. Like I said, the best wide receiver easily out of the draft before he got injured. So because of that, it's just somebody to be on the lookout for because he could drop or he could go like literally top 10. We don't know yet, but this is a pivotal week because of those medicals. Now, so that's really a lot of the wide receivers out there. But now on the flip side, the tight ends, I really just kind of have two people. The tight ends, they could really go anywhere. So really just be on the lookout for them. We don't have to have a tight end because we have Komet, but it's good to at least be on the lookout to see who is that next level athlete out there. So the two people, Jelani Woods, if you've listened to our podcast before, some of our Senior Bowl reviews, Jelani Woods out of Virginia is somebody who really shines. He's a huge, big body tight end. Think of Mo Alley Cox out of the Colts. He could be somebody that we want to bring in because he is just like Mo Alley Cox, but he is a very athletic guy, and it's going to be really cool to see this just enormous tight end. The big question that I have is about his quickness, is about his feet. He shows that he can get ahead of steam, but I just want to really see his quickness out there at that tight end position. But then another tight end is Jeremy Ruckert. You might know that name because he is the Ohio State tight end. The good part about Jeremy Ruckert, so he's not a receiver. That's not the good part. But he's really not the receiver, but he is a security blanket or a red zone target that Justin Fields trusted a lot. Think about like Jesse James, how he was kind of that safety blanket for Justin Fields in this first year. Jeremy Ruckert really was that guy. He was a reliable guy he could throw to. The percentage, I want to say it's around 80% completion to him. It was outrageous, but also really found him in the red zone. He is a blocker first and then a receiver second. So he could be a good person to bring in that has that rapport with Justin Fields. But what I'm looking out for here is how does he look as a receiver? We're going to see him run routes. We're going to see him catching. Is he catching it out away from his body with his hands? Or is he letting it hit him in the chest and then he catches it that way? Different stuff that we need to be looking out for from a tight end perspective. But just like with all of these, always look for other people. This is the beauty of the combine. And just see some of those small school people or just some people that stand out. If there's anyone else that's from this wide receiver group, please let me know down in the comments because there's so many people that I could be calling out with this. But then let's switch it over to Friday. So on Friday, we have the running backs and the offensive line. Now, I got to be honest with you. I don't have any running backs to look out for. I think we're very, very good with running backs. And actually, from the polls interview, he was actually talking about he thinks we're set out running back. He said, I really like our running backs. And who would blame him? When you have David Montgomery, who's just a beast, and you have Khalil Herbert as the backup, yeah, why else wouldn't you be happy with your running backs in your stable? So obviously with running backs, they're actually super fun to watch because they're just explosive. Enjoy it, have a beer, relax, and just watch the running backs because they're just enjoyable. If anybody stands out to you, let us know, because it's just a luxury pick for us. I don't see us really using a pick, maybe a later pick because later picks you're not trying to fill a specific starter spot. You're more so just trying to fill the roster. So that could be an option. So just still keep your eyes peeled for running backs. But offensive line, guys, this is the big bodies. Now, yes, you're not going to be wanting to watch their 40 times unless you're a fan of seeing big guys run. But I actually love watching the offensive linemen in these drills. One of my favorite ones is when they have the speed rusher just kind of run straight at them. And then you have the offensive lineman that just has to track them as if they were an offensive tackle. They have to go on the left side and the right side and just track them. And you get to see how fast they are and how fluid they are with just shifting and just kind of stuttering over to the side. But also, I love the mirror drill. The mirror drill, for those that don't know, it's basically once one person is right in front of them and they just run back and forth like a madman. So then your blocker, the person that's actually being tested, just has to shuffle their feet from side to side. And what I love about that is it really does separate the good from the bad, because when you see a good player do it, you just see how natural they are and how fluid they are with just shuffling their feet around. It can also, and also, this is very similar to blocking. A lot of times you just have to be in front of the person. So this at least shows how well can they track somebody who's literally just running around like crazy. So I love the offensive line drills because it shows the feet. It shows the feet. It shows the quickness that supposedly Ryan Poles is all about. So from an offensive tackle perspective, I don't have a lot of offensive tackles because we could be set, we couldn't be set. It's going to be interesting. Ryan Poles did say he wants the best five to play. So really kind of saying, hey, I don't care when you got drafted, Tevin Jenkins or Larry Borum. I don't care if you were a starter. We're putting the best five out there. So offensive tackle, if a good one's on the board, it wouldn't surprise me if we ended up drafting one. So someone to be on the lookout for is Daniel Fellaille out of Minnesota. He is 6'9", close to 400 pounds. He is a mammoth of an offensive tackle. Now, the reason why, besides just his mammoth size, is also just how good of an athlete is he? How well does he move? From what I'm seeing, I don't really like the way he moves, but I want him to prove me wrong. See how this monster of a man moves compared to everybody else. So that's why Daniel Fellaille out of Minnesota is a big guy that I want to be watching out for. You don't see people with his size make it in the NFL. Damian Mumma was a perfect example. It's just an enormous guy that probably was actually 400 pounds. He was not the speed to make it in the NFL. But a guy that's significantly smaller than Daniel Fellaille is another person from the Ohio State, and that is Nicholas Petit Ferrer. Ferrer, I'm probably saying that wrong, probably butchering that, but he is a fantastic zone blocker at tackle. He played left tackle last year. He's played some right tackle, so he has that positional versatility. But like I said, great zone blocker, a very physical run blocker. He's really all about that. But from a pass blocking perspective, not necessarily the best. So what I'm looking for is his feet. How quick are his feet? What does he look like in some of those pass sets in the combine? Because you want to see that quickness from the feet perspective. So make sure that he's not looking too clumsy out there because that could be a huge knock on him. He's someone that could go in that second to third round range, and this is a big job interview for him. So it might be nice to have an offensive lineman that Justin Fields is familiar with. So it will be someone to definitely be on the lookout for. But let's switch on into this interior. Now, this is the other guy, besides David Bell or Chris Olave, that's probably the biggest name that you have been seeing. and that is Zion Johnson out of Boston College. The scary part is he's flying up draft boards. Ever since he played center, people have said, wait, he can play center and he can play guard? I want this guy on my team. He's been going up draft boards, going up different mock drafts, and has been getting mocked in the first round. So hopefully he could drop to us with our first pick. But this is definitely somebody that we have to watch. Zion Johnson is definitely a guy that whatever he's doing, the Bears need to be watching, and the fans, we need to be watching as well, because he could be the next guy that we end up drafting. On the flip side, though, Dylan Parham out of Memphis is another person that I'm going to be watching. I didn't like him in the Senior Bowl. I didn't think he had that great of a Senior Bowl, so I want to see how he is in the combine. He's another center because we need a center. And like I said, he didn't impress me in the Senior Bowl. It gets me scared that this other center that we can get in the third round, maybe second would be a huge reach. But if you want to get him in the third, is he actually worth it? To me, right now, he's showing that he's not. I hope that he proves me wrong, and that's why I'm actually going to be trying to watch him in the combine. Yet again, there's a lot of people on this offensive line to be on from the offensive side of the ball to be on the lookout for, and especially watch the feet. There's a lot of big guys. Don't just be like, holy cow, that's a huge dude. See how quick they are. See how agile they are. Like we were hearing with Ryan Poles, he wants them to be slimmed down and be pretty quick. So that quickness that we're going to be seeing out there is going to be something that we really are going to be looking out for. So that is the offense. So we're going to be flipping over to the defense and breaking down who to be watching out for. But first, just a word from our sponsors. Summer is just around the corner, and you know what that means. It's going to be swimsuit season. Help get in the best shape of your life with Transparent Lab's suite of performance nutrition products. Whether you want to get buff, whether you want to get lean, whatever it might be, they have a product for you. And like the name entails, it's all transparent, so you actually know what you're putting into your body, which is a very good thing. Use the description below to link out to Transparent Labs and tell them that Unbearable Sports sent you. And we are back. So we just went through the offense, and now we have to go through this defense. So I think that I think that the Bears are going to be looking at a lot of defensive players. I think we're so focused on the offense. I actually think that the Bears are going to be building through free agency more so on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe trying to get some of that depth from the defensive side. Try to get some more athletes, try to swing big to try to hit on these big, speedy free agents. So we've already gone through Monday, we've already gone through Thursday, we've gone through Friday. But what about the weekend? This is when like majority of people can actually watch this, because then it will be the weekend. So on Saturday, we're going to have the defensive linemen and the linebackers coming in. Now, something to be on the lookout for. I am a big fan. I actually don't like the way that they put defensive linemen. I'm a big fan of defensive interiors and edge players. This is a weird middle ground that they have out here, because they just say D-line and linebacker. But what's good for the Chicago Bears is that D-line will typically mean your 4-3 defensive ends and defensive interior players, and linebackers will mean more of the stand-up linebackers. You might see some of the players out there that are more of the pass rushers at that linebacker position. Just be on the lookout for that. That's what's weird about this. You might see some people that have tremendous bend, but they're really more so a pass rusher. So think of them more as our defensive ends than an actual stand-up inside linebacker like we would need in the 4-3 defense. So let's start out with this defensive line. Now, from a Bears perspective, we're pretty set at that defensive edge spot. A lot of the rumors are saying the Bears know this as well. They don't really want to do much from the edge spot. They have Khalil Mack, they have Robert Quinn, and they have Travis Gibson. Why get anyone else at that defensive end spot? Then the fourth spot is just whoever you want. It's maybe Charles Snowden, might be a couple other people that then fill into that position. But That's why we're going to be looking for the big guys. We need these defensive interior guys, the huge guys out there. Now, when you see the defensive linemen, sometimes they'll actually switch it out into two separate sections. So they still have DL on their shirts, but just be on the lookout for when you see some slimmer guys out there. Those might be more of the defensive ends, the edge rushers, but you see the huge guys, those are going to be your interior guys, the interior group of people. So look for the big boys. And really, what I'm looking for is the big guy bend. I want to see those big guys show off some of the bend. One of my favorite drills is they have this big circle that basically they run, they have to go around the circle and basically come back and do a couple other things. I'm looking for the bend. What I mean by that is just how do they position their body? Does it look fluid as they're kind of cutting around some of the players? Big reason is because a person like me, an average Joe, does not have bend. I'm very upright, but that's why I'm not in the NFL. Because of that, you don't want a lot of upright runners as they're running around. You want to see them with some bend because it's physics. It's the leverage that allows them to really kind of push and shove the people over. You see this all the time with Aaron Donald. He's lower. He also has tremendous bend, so he's able to run around people or push them off of their spot. But really, some of the people to be on the lookout for are the people from Georgia, Devontae Wyatt and Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis is going to be incredible to see. He is an amazing athlete and an enormous defensive interior player. Something to also be on the lookout for, too. Jordan Davis's biggest knock is that he just needs oxygen like every minute that he's out on the field. He's an amazing player, but he always is gassed. So Jordan Davis is just someone that I think is just going to blow up the scouting combine. So he's definitely somebody to be on the lookout for just because he's going to be a lot of fun. But Devontae Wyatt is someone to definitely keep your eye on. He's someone that could go in the late first and early second. Not a lot of people are projecting defensive interior guys for the Bears, but it's definitely a position of need, especially when you're thinking about maybe the only returning player is Khyiris Tonga because we don't have Bilal Nichols. We don't have Akeem Hicks. They're going to be free agents. And we could potentially cut two defensive interior players in Mario Edwards and Angela Blackson. We might only have one person in Khyiris Tonga. And Eddie Goldman. I forgot about him because he's probably as good as gone. The only other defensive interior guy I really kind of have note on is Haskell Garrett. Yet again, another guy from Ohio State. But I swear the Bears have actually been in talks with a Haskell Garrett. So he is really a three technique type of guy. So think about Tommy Harris back in the day with the Chicago Bears. Really that guy that's going to be playing on that left-hand side and really more of that pass rusher. He's somebody you can get later on and somebody that the Bears have shown interest in. But crazy enough, he's just been a situational type of a pass rusher. So he is someone interesting to be on the lookout for. You can't really check someone's stamina out there, but he could be somebody that you can see some of the explosiveness, see some of the athletic traits that the Bears really kind of want to see out of these interior guys. But yet again, look for the big guys. We need some big guys on this defensive interior. See those people. Look for the bend, just because that bend can really kind of take them to that next level. Now, let's go to the linebackers. This is going to be exciting. I think that the Bears are going to be looking for some linebackers. It really does depend on free agency, though. So, depending on what happens there, we could sign maybe a couple people to 1-year deals. But I think that the Bears should go after some athletic linebackers. So, in the drills, I'm really looking for the coverage drills. How fluid are they in the hips when they're shifting back and forth? Because we need some coverage linebackers. Coverage from a linebacker perspective is one of the most, if not the most important trait. I think it's more important to have a good coverage linebacker than a run stuffer because of the day and age of the league. It's all pass happy. They have to cover tight ends, they have to cover running backs, so you want to have a good coverage linebacker. Now, this is one of my favorites. Not saying that he's like, I think he's going to be amazing, but just because I love the idea of him being in the Bears system. Brian Asamoah, the second out of Oklahoma. He is going to put on a show. If he doesn't, you're going to see him falling on draft boards. The biggest thing that he has is crazy athleticism at the inside linebacker position. He's built like Darius Leonard, and he's as athletic as Darius Leonard. Having him paired up with Roquan Smith, good night. It's just watch him out there. He is going to be flying. When I saw him at the Senior Bowl, just when a running back was just running a little flat route, he was with them step for step. Just a crazy, crazy athlete. So I'm excited to see him out there. But speaking of the Senior Bowl, this was another guy that really did well at that Senior Bowl, and that's Chad Mumma out of Wyoming. He's somebody that is a good all-around player, good in the run, good in the pass, and also the big question is, how good of an athlete is he? He's actually a very good athletic linebacker, but I know that some people might be helmet scouting and say, hey, no one athletic has ever come out of Wyoming. So some people knock him from an athletic perspective, even though he's very athletic. So I just want to see, is he a good athlete or is he a great athlete? He's someone that is quickly rising up boards with his great Senior Bowl performance. He was everywhere on the field. And if he can show that he is truly an NFL athlete, I think that he can easily go in the second round and really kind of shake that late round status. The next guy is a very traditional linebacker, Leo Chanel out of Wisconsin. So I live in Wisconsin. I watch a lot of Badgers. He is your traditional Wisconsin linebacker, just a tackler in the running game, good instincts, but not very athletic. So that's why my question that I have in my notes, how athletic is he? Is he going to just kind of showcase that he's not a good athlete? Or is he going to surprise some people and show that he's at least got that NFL athleticism that is needed? A lot of the linebackers that come out of Wisconsin, except for Braun, I think, I forgot his name of a couple of years ago, but they aren't the most athletic. So you want to just see, does he have that athleticism to play in the NFL? If so, he could be a good later round find. But last but not least, this is probably going to be the big day for all of us. It's going to be a Sunday. We need defensive backs helps, whether it's the corners, whether it's the safeties. We need to be watching for this. And similar to the linebackers, what I'm looking for is the coverage. One of my favorite drills is when they go directly straight back and they have to constantly flip their hips, because you get to see just how fluid they are with just their change of direction and shifting their hips as somebody's going back. It's a really nice drill to see, but also something that always stands out to me. I remember Deion Sanders saying you want to see when they have to go forward. Do they take 2 steps and then go forward? Or is it all fluid and 1 step to go forward? One person that did a really good job at this was David Long. I think he's a corner for the Rams now, but I do know that he's at least a starting corner. And he was someone that went later on, and he was somebody that Deion Sanders loved because he took only 1 step and was able to explode rather than taking 2 steps. It's a very small thing. I'm not saying if you do 2 steps, you're never going to be good, but that switching from 2 to 1 just allows you to be a little bit better and have a little bit better fundamentals. But let's get into the people to at least be watching for. Now, similar mindset. It's also, who are the people that could be going to the Chicago Bears at that early second or that third rounder? Now, what I'm looking for is Trent McDuffie out of Washington and Roger McCreary out of Auburn. These are 2 people that could go in the mid first round or could drop all the way to the Bears. It sounds crazy, but honestly, that's what I've been seeing. Some people have been having McDuffie drop all the way to the Bears. He's a very heavy zone corner, which would be incredible. McCreary is more of a mirror man-to-man type of guy, but can still play zone coverage. Another guy to keep on the lookout for too, he's kind of a corner, kind of a safety, but Daxton Hill out of Michigan. He's someone that has that positional versatility. You might see him as a safety or you might see him as a corner, but somebody who is a very, very good athlete that can, yet again, blow the doors off of the combine. But I'm going to go back out to the safeties. Now, there's two people to definitely be on the lookout for, and that one of them is Marquis Bell out of Florida A&M. This is another guy, I don't think the NFL knows where exactly he's going to be going. I've seen him in the second. Actually, majority of the time I've seen him in the third, but I was just looking at a couple other draft analysts to see where they think he was going. And people were saying in the fifth, in the sixth, in the seventh. I think that's a little bit outrageous, but it just shows because he is someone from Florida A&M. He's a big body guy that can play in the box. But he also has the speed to be able to play deep. He's very explosive, very rangy, but also not all there in the head when it comes down to knowing where to be. So definitely with some coaching, I think he should be able to be a lot better. So as soon as a play happens, he kind of tends to jump at that play rather than watching the play develop and then making a play. So he was out of position a decent amount of times. But the last person on the list is Jalen Petrie, the safety / slot corner out of Baylor. He's somebody that had a phenomenal senior year. Besides that, never was that great, but he was somebody out of the Senior Bowl that was phenomenal. Locked down people like crazy. He has that positional versatility, so he can really kind of play wherever you want. A lot of people have him in the second or the third, so he's somebody that could potentially drop, but I just want to see his athleticism and how fluid is he. So that's about it from this preview of the Scouting Combine. I hope that you really enjoyed it. We kind of broke down to really focus in on the drills. The numbers will be there tomorrow, so you can watch the numbers on the next day, but really focus in on those drills. If there's someone that I might have missed because there's hundreds of people that are going to be there, let me know in the chat who you're excited to be watching for the Scouting Combine. Also, make sure to follow us at Unbearable Sport on Twitter, Unbearable Sports on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and also join the conversation. Let me know who you really think is going to show out, but also as it's going on, join the conversation. Let me know who you're seeing and who you're excited that you think the Bears should get. Thank you all so much, and Unbearable Sports Podcast, we're out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bad chick.
Thank you for listening to this Belly Up Sports Podcast Network product. Some said we go belly up, so we made it our name, and we're still here.